And you know, Elon, I love Elon Musk. Do we love him? I love him.
He works in mysterious ways, that guy. He knows just about everything about everything.
One of our very smart people, and we want to cherish those people. That's very important, but he's done a very good job.
I think he is smarter than Einstein.
I would say from the age of 3, I thought he was a genius. He would reason with me, and his reasoning was sensible. And how do you even do that when you don't really have much experience? I wanted him to go to nursery school. They said, well, he makes it by 2 days, but you really should keep him back a year because otherwise he'll be a little socially challenged. And I said, you don't understand. I have a genius son. He needs to talk to someone besides me. And of course they rolled their eyes because every mother thinks their child is a genius. I was the science nerd at high school. I didn't really get many dates. I don't know if boys rather were scared of me or whatever, but I didn't have many dates. So I wouldn't date anybody if he wasn't as good at math and science as I was, and no one was. So, although my ex-husband was. He was better than me at math and science, and I hate to admit that, but that probably did help towards Elon being a genius.
My name is Errol Graham Musk. I'm Elon's father. Elon was a good reader very early on. So Elon was very keen on reading about Napoleon, about Alexander the Great. And he even had a copy of Napoleon's last will and testament, which is in French. People would say to him, are you reading that big, thick book, little boy? Some idiot would say to him. And Elon would say, what, are you stupid? Do you think I'm just looking at the pictures or what, you know? so, you know, but he liked to be with the adults in company. So if the other kids were running around playing, he would like to sit with the adults. He was often told, why don't you go and play with the children? And he'd say, no, I'd rather sit here with the adults.
As a teenager, Elon didn't have many friends, but he read all the time, through the night. I couldn't get him up in the morning. He read a lot of science fiction. He would read through the night until he saw me getting up, and then he would go to sleep. And then, of course, I had to dress him while he was half asleep and get him to school.
Elon grew up in South Africa, and he had a very unfettered upbringing. He has said that, he was raised basically by books and occasionally nannies. Elon, at one stage in his childhood, after his parents divorced, says that he felt sorry for his dad living by himself, so he opted to go and live with his dad. That he later called a huge mistake.
He's been on record saying he didn't have a great relationship with his father.
He's notably said some really, really hard things about his dad. It sounds like it was a really awful situation.
He grew up in South Africa as a scrawny kid on the autism spectrum, so he had no social input-output skills. He was no friends, and he was beaten up quite often. But the scars from that were minor compared to what happened when he went home after being beaten up once. He was in the hospital for 4 days, but he gets home and his father makes him stand in front of him for 2 hours while the father tells him he's a loser and that it was his fault, and takes the side of the kid who beat up Elon.
Elon, while he was a little boy, he grew up in a very violent home. Like, for example, when I always had to drive the car and he would be punching me and Elon would be between the seats hitting his father to stop him punching me. When he would be at home and punching me, Kimball and Tosca would be crying in the corner because they were really babies. Elon was 5, Kimball 4, Tosca 3. Elon would be hitting his dad at the back of his legs. And then when he was 8, we left.
My relationship with Elon is very much the same as my relationship I had with my father. We mostly communicate on email. I haven't spoken to them for quite a long time.
After 2 years, Elon said he wanted to go and live with his father, and that made me very sad, because I didn't see why he would wanted to do that. His father had the Encyclopedia Britannica, I couldn't afford books. I mean, he'd read everything in the library in Durban, so he had the opportunity to actually read the whole encyclopedias. I could call him anytime and ask him any subject, anything in the world.
His father was an engineer, and Elon says that a lot of his engineering nous came from his father, and his father had some issues, according to Elon, but what he did have was a very incisive engineering background.
I had a lot of nice cars during Elon's youth, Porsche and Mercedes, Ferrari and Maserati. He was always interested in taking the doors apart and all that sort of stuff, because sometimes you had to fix something and he would do it. He would open it up himself for me. I wouldn't say he was the best mechanic, you know. Most amateur mechanics are a little bit ham-handed, but he would certainly try. He was definitely not a boring child,
You know, we worked closely together. When he was in a good mood, he was an incredible, fun guy to be with. But I remember Elon, one time it was about 9 o'clock at night. Elon was going around the office looking to see who was sitting in their cubes. And there weren't many people sitting in their cubes. It was 9 p.m. and his face turned red. And he was just really angry that, you know, the entire company wasn't there in the office at 9 o'clock at night.
He worked 7 days a week, crazy hours. And in that time, he managed to still hold a relationship with his fiancée.
A roller coaster ride in terms of watching Elon go through the trials and tribulations of working, and the toll that's, it takes on a relationship. And you accept that when you're, spending time with him, you're getting a very small part of him, because 95% of his mental energy is still being consumed by these problems. He doesn't get any breaks from it.
You have to spend a tremendous amount of your time at work. There's no such thing as the 8-hour day in Silicon Valley in any field.
And I think he just got tired of the stress and the uncertainty of it. And the next day, I went into my therapist's office, and he had left a message for her to tell me that he was filing for divorce. So that was how I found out. One of the more memorable moments of my life, yeah.
When you date or marry Elon, you don't see him much. So it is hard to have a relationship in his...
My first impressions were that he was very sweet. He seemed quite shy. He said, "May I put my hand on your knee?" And I said, "Okay, go on then." So it was quite sweet that he asked. He said, "I don't usually do this, but, I'd love to see you tomorrow. Can we meet for breakfast?" And we had breakfast, and then at the end of breakfast, he said, "Will you come and have lunch with me?" So then we went for lunch, and then he said, "Will you come to dinner?" And then I remember one evening he said, would you like to come back to my hotel room so we can look at rocket videos? And I thought, I was like, okay, yeah, I'll come back. And we did get into his hotel room, and he did just show me rocket video. It was one of the bad Christmases. He'd forgotten to get me a Christmas present. We were in Boulder, Colorado, so there's loads and loads of snow. And we were in bed, and he said, he's not that I don't love you, I do really, really love you. It's like, my brain is exploding. And I was like, no, I know, it's fine. And he sort of got up in the middle of the night and disappeared. I was like, where has he gone? And he came back 2 hours later, and he'd gone outside in his t-shirt and shorts, barefoot, and he'd gone and dug through the snow and picked flowers. He'd walked all over Boulder and came back with a little bouquet of picked flowers. And he was like, I just wanted to show you how much I loved you. He was very supportive of me having a career. But I had to come back and do St. Trinian's 2, and it was the first time we'd been apart. And he sent 2 lorry loads of flowers to set for me. And he'd also found out from production the name of every woman on set, and he'd sent them all flowers and champagne and chocolate, so that then when he came to visit, everyone was like, oh, hi.
Tallulah, can I get a quick picture? Tallulah, first time Tallulah. Tallulah, it's on the card, here.
I remember at the premiere, he came along and he was holding my umbrella for me while I was doing some signings. No one knew who Elon was.
Tallulah! Tallulah!
He has a kind of innocence to him. What I mean by that is that he feels with incredible purity the emotion that he is feeling at the time, whatever that emotion is. He feels things very, very deeply. So, you know, I've heard it said that he's cold and emotionless, and that could not be further from the truth. He is the most emotional person I know. One of the things I remember really early on is we'd gone to the cinema, and we were watching some comedy, and Elon found the film so funny that he literally fell on the floor and was like rolling around, holding his tummy, laughing. And everyone else in the cinema was looking at us like, what the hell is going on over there? And I was sort of like, Nick, come on, get up off the floor. But he was just enraptured by what was on screen, and he was feeling it. And he feels things. And, you know, if he feels anger, you know it's there. You know, anything, it goes deep. He told me all about his childhood growing up. I think his childhood shaped him in a lot of ways. I think he knows what it's like to be bottom of the pack, to be hurt by people that you should be able to trust. And obviously, I think that leaves scars.
When I talk to Elon Musk, I'm very aware how dumb I am.
Really?
Yes.
I remember meeting him for the first time. He gave me a demo of what he had done, which was online Yellow Pages with maps and directions. And he turns to me and he goes, "It's cool, huh?" And I go, "Yeah, it's really cool." I'm staring at him. He's staring at me. And I'm thinking, is this like a trick, you know, interview where they're trying to see, like, can I come up with something?
He kind of assesses people, and I've noticed he tends to stare at them, and it can be very intimidating.
He was trying to avoid bankruptcy. Every day, Elon would come home and say, tomorrow, that's it. Being ridiculed in the press, horrible things being said. There was something called the Tesla Death Watch at the time, which was an internet site kind of counting down the days till when Tesla was going to disappear.
Electric car maker Tesla laying off 20% of the workforce, 24%.
He'd have night terrors in the middle of the night. I'd be fast asleep, and then suddenly he would be screaming in his sleep and sort of trying to climb up, like in his sleep, trying to escape something. All available resource had to be plowed into the projects, into the companies. He was under incredible stress. I was worried he was going to have a heart attack. I just kept thinking, God, I've just got to keep this guy alive.
Work hard every waking hour. If somebody else is working 50 hours and you're working 100, you'll get twice as much done in the course of a year as the other company.
You really need to be more dedicated to the mission than you are to your own personal growth. Between Elon and I, there was an understanding that I was in it for the mission as he was in it for the mission.
All a company is a group of people that have gathered together to create a product or service. Are these efforts that people are expending, are they resulting in a better product or service? And if they're not, stop those efforts.
Elon can be very overbearing. I've seen Elon fire dozens and dozens and dozens of people.
He wouldn't ask anything of you or ask you to work harder than he was working himself. And so I just kept trying to nail it every single time. I was drinking out of a fire hose every single day for years and years and years. So it just felt like how we did things. There were things that would come out of his mouth and words that he would say to people that under any amount of stress were not okay. He was more erratic. I can count 3 times that he got really upset with me. And the last time he was yelling at me about a mistake that someone on my team made. And he was really angry. And there was a disconnect. I wasn't seeing Elon. I was seeing this person being overtaken by this anger. It was so bizarre, and kind of the blink of an eye, I saw him snap out of it and recognize that it was me and it was fine. And he apologized to me the next day. But it was in that moment that I decided I've hit my limit and it is time to go.
I feel bad that I lost those prime years with my daughter. I didn't have as much contact with my family as I otherwise would have. I don't know how he does it. He just keeps going and going and going. He's amazing. The amount of energy that man has, like, he can just take the pain of dealing with it constantly, and most of us can't.
I had decided that I had no work-life balance and I needed to take a break, but I remember sitting in a room with him and telling him that my 3-year-old son was calling me dad and that I needed to take a break.
Something you've said a few times to me and in general is that he's under a huge amount of stress. And I'm thinking of doing a startup now and kind of thinking about all of this. Because I enjoy podcasts, I enjoy science, but he says that his life is basically hell. It's very difficult.
He looks happy, but he's probably very good at
He's fulfilled. Mm-hmm. He's fulfilled, but the stress levels, the constant fires that he has to put out, and he says that most people wouldn't want to be me, and that basically the reason he does what he does is because there's probably something wrong with him. Like, it's not he can't help it but do that.
It's kind of beautiful in a kind of Russian masochistic way.
Well, I just wonder the stress. I mean, I'm sure you can imagine the kind of stress he's under, because it's running 3+ companies, and there's constant. Like, he says that, every single meeting is not about, like, should we install a coffee maker in the kitchen. It's like, this rocket is going to blow up.
He's a different kind of human, man. Like, that's an unusual combination of characteristics. He likes to make jokes. He takes a picture of Bill Gates and then he puts it next to a pregnant man emoji and it says, "Here's a quick way to lose your boner." Or if you want to lose your boner really quick, that's what he said. He posts that.
Yeah.
He's the richest man in the world, and he's dunking on other billionaires.
I love that. No,
you
I
gotta
love that.
celebrate that.
I love Elon.
And he loves that nature of the internet. And the thing that bothers him is this idea that, like, one gatekeeper can dictate whether or not something gets released into the whole world. If you're using something like Twitter, like, you could have an amazing story and they can block it if ideologically they disagree with it.
He's a great engineer. He understands physical engineering. He doesn't understand human emotions very well, which is why he was better off with Tesla and SpaceX and not buying Twitter. But I wanted to understand the pioneering work that was being done. He's the only person who can get astronauts from the U.S. into orbit. NASA can no longer do it. Boeing can't do it. So how come? How did he make those rockets work?
Elon is really dedicated to saving this planet. I'm happy to say that SpaceX and Tesla are in the hands of my brilliant son. Well, genius son. We admire him for that. We don't want to be him, because with those companies, he gets a lot of hate. Stop being mean to him. I hate it when the media are mean to him.
Why didn't you use the money to do something for charity, philanthropy, more good with that money?
Well, I do a lot of things philanthropically.
He gets up every morning thinking, what can I do for humanity today? How can I do something that will be impactful to humanity of the future? That's what he's focused on.